Hello everybody, my name is Paul from Cryonetic. In this video we will be creating this tree here in the center, this evergreen Christmas tree. We will be using Blender and Blender alone, so this was completely drawn in Blender in their UV image editor. I didn't use any other external programs. I didn't use Photoshop, I didn't use GIMP. This was just purely done in Blender, exported to Unreal Engine 4 and then set up as a sprite. So it's not the same as these other two trees that we have here. These were done using 3D models. So this is just a basic sprite that we set up. So if you want to learn how to do this yourself, please sit back and relax, enjoy the video, and then I hope you learn something new. Alright, so let's jump over to Blender, and then I'm going to click for the UV image editor. I'm going to create a new image. Set 1024 by 1536, and then the name I'm going to change to tree, and the color value I am going to set the alpha to 0. If you click OK, you'll see this checkered box, which basically means that it's completely transparent. So then I'm just going to click at the bottom here, click on the paint tools, and then push T to open the toolbar, or this little cross here, you can click that, and then I'm going to start drawing. Now I just would like to mention that I am going to use a drawing tablet, and the screencast keys don't seem to work in Blender UV image editor, but there's very little that I'm going to do on the keyboard itself. Most of everything is just going to be with drawing. Now the tablet I'm using is a Wacom Intuos Manga. It's a fairly old one. It wasn't very expensive, so if you do have a little bit of extra cash, I would highly recommend picking one up. Okay, so for this I'm going to go with a evergreen tree, similar to the tree in Don't Starve. I'm just going to select my color, a bit lighter over there, and then I'm going to set my strength to 100%, but pressure sensitive, and I'm going to do the same here with the radius, also pressure sensitive. You see, the harder I push, or the lighter I push, the lighter the lines, the harder I push, the darker the lines. So this is just going to be my outline, so it doesn't matter too much. Let's start smaller maybe. Now the tablet itself costs roughly about $100. It's not my first graphics tablet I've ever had. The first one I had was a Genius mouse one, which cost roughly, I think it was about something along the lines of between $20 to $40. It didn't have pressure sensitivity. It was actually quite just almost like a laptop trackpad, but with a pen. So it wasn't too great, but it actually did teach me a lot about drawing like this, or drawing using a pen on a computer. So you don't have to have the most expensive tablet. You can even do this with a mouse. I have done most of my drawings earlier in my life was just done basically with a keyboard and mouse, no tablet itself. So it's not impossible. It's just I would consider anyone that attempts to do it just a slight bit crazy. So do yourself a favor, just save up some money and try and get yourself a tablet. Even this one that I have here, it was ridiculously expensive when I bought it. It was like double the price. It was $200, and I had to save up for quite a bit to get it. Okay, so with our outline done, I want to fill the color now. Now, notice one thing with Blender: if you go to the fill tool, the color I had selected disappears. The reason why why it does this is that you want to add this color into a color palette, because it will not share colors across brushes. So here at the bottom you'll see there's a little color wheel. You can just click new, and then you'll see a plus and a minus appears right above your color. If you click the plus, you'll see that there's a color that appears there which is similar to the color you were working on. Now if we swap over to our fill tool, you'll see the color is still there. We can select it. We're going to set the strength to full, not pressure sensitive, and just fill twice. There we go. We have our color filled. And I'm going to go back to my drawing, and I am going to pick a brownish color now for the tree base here. Maybe that's okay color. Maybe make it a bit darker. There we go. So note that I am just filling in the outlines basically with full color, and then filling it. Now just make sure that you don't leave any gaps in between, otherwise it will fill the entire image. Need to add that to my color wheel. There we go. I'm selecting. There we go. Okay. Alright, filled it. Go back to a draw, and now we're going to start actually with our outlines. That seems kind of silly, starting with your outlines last, but this is the more easier way to do it in Blender specifically. So I'm going to select a full-on black color, but I'm going to make it pressure sensitive on both the strength and the radius, so that if you see that it doesn't go full-on dark or pitch black, which is something that I would want. So, and maybe if you just push F and you just move your mouse, you can see that you can change the size of your brush. Shift S changes the intensity. So that's handy keys for if you decided to do this using a mouse. Which if you're doing this with a mouse at the current moment, then I have a lot of respect for you. Alright, so what we're doing here is we're just basically creating our outlines for our tree. So this is where you're going to maybe do a bit more detail. So to show you what I mean here is, let's just quickly finish this part. Is that you could do something along the lines of this. Now, note the reason why I'm using Blender. You might actually think, well, you can do this in Photoshop, you can do this in GIMP. Why are you using Blender? I have found that, just for my own sake, if I draw in Blender, because if you're doing an image directly like this, there's no image layers or anything like that. So the image I'm working on, this is my final image. This is, I cannot remove a layer, I cannot remove some details or anything like that. So the reason why I'm doing this for my own sake is that I do believe that when I'm working with layers in a 3D program, or not a 3D program, a graphics program like Photoshop or GIMP, I tend to get used to the fact that, oh, I can just add details or remove details at any point, which makes my work a little bit sloppy, because sometimes I feel that I just keep on intentionally trying different things for the sake of just trying them without actually really having any reason to do that. So I will add different colors or things like that, and I just my drawings end up being like a complete and utter mess of just multiple layers, which is, it's not really a mess. It's the way you're supposed to do your drawings, but I believe in the pure form of just drawing something. So if you want to get something similar to pen and paper, this would be the way to do it. Just the way, just think of it as this is how you would draw if you were drawing on a pen and paper. No major mistakes. You can't really make a mistake. If you make a mistake, you have to do your drawing over again. I can't erase any of this. So you have to be good, or you have to basically get most of it right the first time. No pressure at all. Alright, so what I'm doing here now is I'm just filling in the details in between the tree. So it looks like it's got leaves and just different levels. Okay, so this one is going to be a bit more along the lines of this. I'm not too happy with these at the bottom, but it's okay. Let's just add one more layer here, very light layer. Go, and then you can just add some details like this to give the an illusion that the tree or the leaves have some direction to them. So this would be like that, that. Okay, well, it looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to do the bottom tree here, or the tree stump here. And then the same thing. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I want to add some shade to this. So I'm going to increase my brush size and then very lightly just go over like the leaves of the tree. So when you're doing this, you kind of have to have an idea where your light is coming from on your, let's reduce the radius influence because this is pretty fixed. You have to have an idea where your light is coming from. So for me here, I'm assuming the light is coming straight from the top. So this is again just basically trial and error. You can see. Now, I would recommend anyone that attempts to do something like this to spend a bit more time. I will show you in some of the next tutorials on how we're going to do this in GIMP itself. And we're going to work with layers, we're going to add different details and things like that. So this is just your very basic, just to get you used to drawing. Okay. Okay. And if you're not too happy with some of the details, you could just go, you could just fill in just some of the areas which I think should have actually been lighter. And we can actually do that as well by just increasing our lightness, and because we're assuming that light is falling, so we can do something along the lines of this. Nope. Okay, select the brown and lighten that. Okay, so there we go. Very quick, very rough evergreen Christmas tree. You want to spend a bit more time on this if you want something. This is just for tutorial purposes. So one thing to mention with Blender, remember Blender doesn't auto-save its images. So if you go here and you save your project and everything, this image will be lost. It will not be part of your project when you reopen it. You would have to save this image separately. So we're gonna go, let's do this. I am going to call this just tree final. I'm going to save it, and let's not open GIMP, let's open Paper 2D. Yes, I don't know why it keeps asking that. Alright, as you can see, this is the previous tree that we created. This is a 3D plane. This is done using the traditional method of just applying a texture to a 3D model. So what we're going to do now is create a sprite. So I'm going to import the tree that we created, and then I'm going to right click, and you'll see the Paper 2D options here, sprite, and we're just going to call this tree sprite. Go. And if we open this, you'll see that it gives you a whole bunch of options. We're just going to make it very easy, and what we're going to do here is we're just going to highlight our image that we created, and then the source texture, and then use selected asset from content browser. Going to click save, and then you're just going to drag this off into the world. Now, we're just quickly going to scale this down, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. No, let's lock this 0.2. Okay, that's good. Now, the reason it came in so large is actually because this is a large texture. If you remember what I did before, is the texture resolution I said was 1024 by 1536. Now that is slightly overkill for a 2D sprite like this. I mean, you can reduce that to something like 256 by 128 or something even significantly smaller. That will both save you space on your game, so your game size will decrease, and it will just be easier to manage. The reason why we drew the high quality is you first get all your quality, and then after that you can change it down and just make it lower quality after that, and to see where you can cut on your details for optimization or things like that. Okay, it does seem to have a fairly big bounding box. I'm just going to move it back. Alright, so as you can see, there's our tree. Finished and done. I can show you how to do a similar animation, but it will basically work the same way. If you guys would like to see that, I think I'll do that in the next video. We will again import this as a 3D model, and then I will also show you how to do a sprite based animation or just a frame by frame based animation for this. If you like what you saw, leave a like. Please subscribe to the channel. You can leave a comment down below if you want to find something out, or if you just want to say what you think about this. I will be uploading more content, so please subscribe, and I will see all of you in the next video. Thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.